I must admit that if I had read this Sunday's gospel a few months ago, I would not have offered to preach today. St. Augustine himself is reported to have remarked, I cannot believe that this story came from the lips of the Lord. This is generally considered to be one of the most difficult passages in the gospel. And one of the commentaries that I referenced in preparation suggested that one should preach on something else, or you might be fired like the shepherd, like the steward in the gospel. Well, since I can't officially be fired, and since I am not one to shrink from a challenge, I'm going to attempt to grapple with these scriptures. The first reading from the prophet Amos and Luke's passage are a perfect pairing. Who would have thought that these writings from the 8th century BCE and the 1st century AD would so accurately predict our 21st century situations? From Amos, we will diminish the ephah and add to the shekel and fix our scales for cheating. Remember when a pound of coffee was a pound? Today, this passage could read, let's charge higher interest rates and entice people into costly credit cards. People, especially young college students and those who are less wealthy, won't see it for what it really is. Or we can charge double or triple if we call our product new or organic or local. Also from Amos, even the refuse of the wheat we will sell. It was the custom in biblical times to loosely harvest the wheat and grain so as to leave some behind so that the poor people could come after the harvesters and glean what remained. This was a sign of care and concern for the poor, giving them an opportunity to gather wheat to feed themselves. And as there is a greater and greater emphasis on wealth and consumerism, the poor are often neglected or caught up in the reaper's wheel. Perhaps we are also cheating future generations and we overreap our environment, leaving too little of our Earth's resources for our progeny. Then there is this very complicated parable, which is found only in Luke and not in any of the other synoptic gospels. We have the shrewd and calculating steward who does some tricky financial maneuvering to guarantee himself some loyal friends after he is fired. A modern scenario might go something like this. I need $5 million in cash so that I can purchase that casino. I know. I'll go to the bank and tell them that my $50 million property on Fifth Avenue is worth $100 million. Then I'll ask the bank for a $50 million mortgage and use the cash to buy the casino. After that, I'll go to the assessor's office and tell them that the property on Fifth Avenue is only worth $25 million so that I won't have to pay as much in taxes. Those taxes that will help the underprivileged and get the services that they need. Another scenario might be oil company executives who use the current volatile situation to increase the cost of gasoline and also encourage increased usage to improve their bottom line and salary bonuses. All this while neglecting the impact on the more disadvantaged purchasers or the impact of climate change on future generations. So we have 21st century examples of the people represented millennia earlier in our scriptures. And what happened to this crafty steward? The landowner commends the steward for acting prudently. For the children of this world are more prudent in dealing with their own generation than are the children of light. I tell you, make friends for yourself with dishonest wealth, so that when it fails, you will be welcomed into eternal dwellings. I'd like to think that there's a great deal of irony in this statement, although some commentators do all sorts of contortions to make it seem different. But the children of the light are those who follow Jesus' teachings of honesty and social justice. The children of this world are those who seek wealth by whatever dishonest means they can muster. They will be welcomed into eternal dwellings, not dwellings of love and peace and righteousness, but dwellings of uncertainty and turmoil and more dishonesty. And it spirals out of control, demanding of the new friends distorted loyalty. If you note in that gospel story, the steward doesn't change the invoices, but the steward has the others change them, therefore pulling them into the conspiracy and making them culpable. The last verse of the reading from Amos describes what will happen. And thank you, Mike, for reading that so forcefully. The one true God has sworn, never will I forget a thing they have done. And the last verse in the gospel also gives us a firm directive. No one can serve two masters. Either they will hate the one and love the other, or be attentive to one and despise the other. You cannot worship both God and riches. This reiterates a central theme in Luke's gospel. The kingdom of God entails giving up the excesses of this world in order to be committed to justice and honesty and concern for others. It is not a complete disdain for other good and worthy things like family, friendship, work, leisure, etc. It is rather a matter of establishing the right priorities and creating a balanced and generous life. I'd like to return to that last verse from Amos and read it to us again as coming from our gentle and loving God. Never will I forget a thing they have done. God will also recognize the efforts of those who strive for justice and equity and honesty, those who work to bring God's loving kindness and goodness into our world, as the people of Massachusetts and Martha's Vineyard who have rallied to help the people who were so cruelly displaced. And I believe that our God will walk with us and work beside us as we try to bring God's love into our little corners of the world. And may our loving God guide us to see the true values of God's kingdom and to live lives of honesty, justice, and compassion.